It's Saturday night. I'm wearing a floral dress and my hair is tousled to perfection. My lips stained a crimson red, bound to make him eat his heart out across the dinner table. A car approaches my house, and a handsome 22-year-old dude steps out and opens the passenger side door for me. I smile. He smiles. I get in the car and soon we are on our way for some noodles. Cue black-eyed peas, I got a feelin'. So we get our food, we make first date talk, yada yada yada. I do this all the time. Except this dude is cooler than most, and the conversation is pretty free-flowing and involved. Seems to me like we're really vibing. After the check is paid, and the leftover yakisoba is all loaded up in the carryout box, he takes my hand on our way back to the car, and casually asks if I'd like to continue the night back at his place. I agree, and once again we're on our way. Now I must express to you just how normal and cool this dude seemed thus far. I was kinda stoked about how well we were getting along, and schoolgirl giddy at the way he held my hand. This, of course, was before I knew about the shooting stars. We arrive at his place and go out onto the balcony for a smoke, and suddenly it's like someone flipped some kind of maniac switch. This guy was pointing all over the sky, screaming about these shooting stars. I'm just like, dude, you're tripping. So he proceeds to grab my shoulders and spin me around forcefully, so that I'm facing the trees parallel to the balcony, all while feverishly pointing and screaming, There, do you see it? I'm about 3 jerks away from shaken baby syndrome, so I just go, yeah, I see it, I see the motherfucking shooting star. And he lets me go and heaves this cartoonish sigh of relief, and says more to himself than to me. Thank God you saw it. I can't believe you almost missed it. So that was weird as fuck, but I try my best to brush it off as we go back inside. And I mean, things are okay, I guess. I'm almost completely turned off by our weird imaginary astronomy lesson, but I'm doing my best to remain collected. That's a big feat though, let me tell you, as this guy's eyes were becoming crazier by the second. I wanted out so bad. But in a stroke of genius, I had agreed to him picking me up for the date, so he is my ride home. I'll just make an excuse about plans in the morning and ask politely for him to drive me home. I go over and over it in my head, trying to find the wording that sounds the least like, you seriously creep me out, so I think it's time I go now. At this point, he had disappeared for a bit, and when he returned, I was all ready to flash a smile and make my out. I opened my mouth and began my well-thought-out speech when I noticed the handle of vodka in his hand. Oh, fuck. Clearly he had not decided to wait for me to begin drinking, and was already quite inebriated. Plan A was a no-go. I decided to wait out the storm by limiting his alcohol consumption as much as possible and abstaining entirely myself. The minutes crawled by at the speed of a snail down a frozen road in December. Finally, the rays of dawn began to break through the blinds, and I was so ready to go home and hold my rabbit. Seemed like this ordeal was just about over, right? As we drive to my house, he says, everyone thinks I'm crazy, but I know I'm not. And I debate even responding, but I decide to ask, who is everyone? Then, I shit you not, the following comes out of his mouth. I can hear them in the car most of the time. They say the same stuff around here that they said in San Francisco. Always talking. Like that one time when I was locked in a car for a week, and I was raped in the ass with a sword. And then a sword was shoved down my throat too. I'm flabbergasted. I'm frightened. I feel very unsafe. I managed to choke out something along the lines of, dude, maybe you should see a doctor about that stuff. Clearly he has heard this before, as he has a whole spiel prepared. You see, that's what I mean. I've already been to the hospital 2 times, and had doctors diagnose this and that and prescribe everything under the sun. But I knew I was just an observer of truth, and that's what people will never understand. And my mom was there, and she was crying, and I went over to comfort her and reassure her that I would keep her safe from the things that they say. Then he smiles at me. We have arrived at my house. Oh my God, I'm safe. I'm home. I'll be okay. I just have to open the door and make it out alive. Well, you have a nice day. And then I very calmly exit the car and walk into my house. I kinda look around in shock, sort of astounded that I made it out of that situation with all my skin. I walk over and sit on the couch and just kind of stare straight ahead until my roommate comes downstairs and asks me what's up. The dam of all dams break, and I nearly flood my house with tears and break all of the windows with my shrill, hysterical scream. I told her the whole story. She consoles me as well as scolding me for not calling her when shit got weird initially. Then she made me bacon, and I felt much better. I know that mental illness is a serious issue, and shooting Star Guy, I hope you get the help you need. I really do. Just far, far away from me. The day after Christmas in 2015 is a day I will not soon forget. I just finished up the night shift in a clothing store at the mall. It was the after Christmas rush, and I was very tired. It was 35 minutes from the mall back to my house, so I have to take the highway. It was raining very hard, so much so that the highway was slightly slippery. I was by myself on the road until I noticed headlights in the lane behind me, getting closer. I started to wonder why they were in my lane when we were only 2 cars on a 3-lane highway. It got very close behind me, and I realized it was a pickup truck, a very large red one. They enter the middle lane to pass me, and immediately turn in front of me, then start going below the speed limit. At this point, I know they're trying to mess with me, and I shift lanes hoping they've had their fun. They switch lanes again and get in front of me, so I switch back and they follow. This repeats a few times. Eventually, I give up and let them stay in front of me, and that was when I got brake checked. They hit the brakes so hard that I slid into the back of them. The pickup truck and I slide to a stop, slightly slanted from the lane. Immediately, 2 large men and a woman pour out of the truck and walk up to my car. They walk very quickly and aggressively, with one man shouting, "Hey asshole, you fucked up my truck." When they get near, I say with the window up, "You hit the brakes so hard I couldn't stop." The man on my side of the car angrily replies, "You hit my truck, I'll kill you." And the 2 men and women started beating my car on the doors in the front. I'm horrified and quickly put my car in reverse, then floor it backwards, knocking the man and woman on the ground. I speed off, and after the woman attempted to actually run in front of my car to block me, I escaped. I'm speeding down a highway doing 80 in a rainstorm, with my body in complete survival mode. These people want me dead, and they're willing to crash their vehicle and risk their own lives to do it. I've got to escape to a point where they can't find me. When is the next exit coming up? Also, where is my phone? I'm calling 911. However, my phone must have flung somewhere in the crash, and in my panic I could not find it. There's other cars around now. I must be safe. They wouldn't do anything with witnesses around. Headlights begin swiftly approaching in the distance. The red truck was back with a vengeance. They're easily doing 100 and slam into the back of my car. I slide slightly but manage to stay in control and veer in and out of traffic in a desperate attempt to escape. The truck matches my every move and gets in front of me again. I know what they'll try and switch lanes to avoid, but they're trying to match me. So we're weaving in and out of lanes when I get an opening to pass them. I speed up and am almost past when the front of their massive truck slams into the back corner of my car. I'm sliding out of control. I veer off into the grass and am spinning. I finally come to a stop in a grass field next to the road. I got out and the red truck is there. They immediately pour out of the car and I start running. I run several days of the week, so I'm in shape and ready for a situation like this. The men from the truck are coming after me, constantly falling over because they must be drunk. I'm waving frantically at every car that passes, screaming for help. People are just slowing down and staring at the crash. I go to the other side of the highway. I notice a car parked on this side also, most likely calling in the crash. 2 men are in the car. Shady looking, but I didn't care. I need to get out of here. I explain the situation and beg them to help me, but they simply refuse to answer and roll up the window. They don't want to get involved, and I can understand that. I could have been anyone. One of the men is almost here now. He came up to the vehicle I was standing outside of. He says, "You hit my car, you animal, and I'm gonna kill you." I shout, "You're the one who hit me," several times. How do you act like anything that's happened is my fault? This entire time we are circling around the stranger's car. The other man is almost here. I realize this is it. It's 2 versus 1. I'm going to get the shit beat out of me. I could die. I sprint as fast as I can down the side of the highway to escape. A normal man would have been able to catch me as I ran past, but this guy was drunk. He grabbed at me but missed. I never looked back. I just ran with everything I had back to my car. The police are driving down the highway and finally arrive at the crash. The danger is over. I will survive this night. The people are handcuffed while I am questioned. I tell the officers the very story I have just told you. The men are still screaming at me and cursing. I sit in the police car and wait until my grandfather and mom show up. A cop approaches the car and informs me of what is happening. No arrests will be made, and you are getting charged with reckless driving. I respond, why aren't they being arrested? I mean, they're clearly drunk. The cop walked away and it was all over. The men who almost killed me were free to go and drove away. Last January, I celebrated my birthday. It didn't go well. I was playing some computer games alone in my apartment. I was so bored because my friends were out of town. And then it was midnight, and I was like, hooray, happy birthday to me. I ate pizza, drank some juice, all that introvert stuff. And then the phone rang. I thought it would be my friends calling to wish me a happy birthday, but who calls that late at night? I hesitated, but still I answered it. I heard a girl and a man speaking. I didn't recognize either voice. I asked them who they were, and told them that they may have a wrong number. It sounded like the girl took the phone away from the man and answered me. She told me that they know me, and that they were looking at me right now through the window. The girl sounded drunk because she was giggling. I was like, what the fuck? Who the hell is this? I hung up and continued playing some computer games. After a few minutes, the phone rang again, so I answered and told them to stop fucking with me. I stood up from my desk and went to look out the window. I didn't see anyone. I tried to look carefully. I started to believe it was a prank call. And then again it rang. I picked it up, but I didn't speak. On the other line, they weren't speaking either. It was like they were waiting for me to go first. So I started to ask them what their problem was. The girl then told me that they were outside my apartment, waiting for me to open the door. Now I was definitely creeped out. I ran to my door and locked it, and went to the kitchen and grabbed a knife because why not? Then I heard a knock at my door. I jumped from my seat and went straight to my bedroom, leaving my computer open and the living room lights on. It was the worst birthday ever. So I have a terrifying story to tell. I recently moved into a new apartment after moving to a new city because of my job. My apartment's located on the 17th floor. Strange and frightening things have been happening lately in the elevator. A lot of buildings won't even acknowledge the 13th floor, but my apartment building does. I know this sounds cliché, having to do with the 13th floor, but just stick with me. So about 2 weeks after I moved in, I was coming back from a sporting event around 11 p.m. I believe it was a Wednesday, so there weren't many people around once I arrived. I walked through the lobby, pressed the button to go up, and got into the elevator. The elevator makes a beep sound when it passes each floor. So as the elevator started moving upwards, I was watching the digital display of the floor numbers as they increased. Then it happened for the first time. This might not sound too terrifying, and at this time nothing else had happened that would have made me think anything of it. But as I think back, it was just the beginning. The elevator passes 11, 12, 13, 14. I thought to myself, that was a bit strange, but whatever. I got off the elevator at my floor and went to bed. A week goes by. I was getting home late again after being out with a friend. This particular night was a Monday, and I was feeling a bit tipsy after 4 beers. I step in the elevator and ride it up to my floor. On the way up, the same thing happened as it had a week prior. I laughed it off because I was a bit buzzed and made a joke to myself about the 13th floor being haunted. A couple more days go by. I'm working late on Friday of the same week. I have a research-based job, and deadlines are a bitch sometimes. I remember getting to my building just after 10:30. I step into the elevator, exhausted after the workday. I shit you not when I tell you this. Time must have stopped when the elevator reached that goddamn 13th floor. The beep sound felt like it dragged on for half a minute. Not just that, but it sounded dull, like the speaker producing the sound was dying out. Then bam, 14th floor, 15th floor, just like nothing had happened. I got into my apartment and thought I was losing my mind. It's safe to say that I, a grown-ass man, slept with the lights on that night. The next day, I stopped by the leasing office to ask one of the agents if they had heard about any problems with the elevator, if any other tenant had complained about the same issue. Her answer was an awkward smile, a smile that suggested she had been asked this exact question before. 3 days ago was the most terrifying occurrence yet. I had just returned from a business trip on Thursday evening. I forget the exact time, but it was dark outside and the building was quiet. I walked into the elevator and it started to ascend. Once it had passed the 12th floor, the elevator started to slow down, then came to a complete stop. I was trembling with fear. Nothing happened for what felt like 5 minutes, but it was probably more like 30 seconds. I pressed the call button in the elevator, but nothing happened. I felt paralyzed and didn't know what to do. I was breathing heavily and staring at the digital 13. The elevator door started to slowly slide open, letting in a biting chill of cold air. The door must have only been a couple of inches open when it stopped. There was a small amount of light entering the elevator. At this point, I was shivering. The air entering through the gap felt ice cold. I heard whispers coming from beyond the door, but they weren't loud enough to understand. Bang! The door slammed shut, and the elevator remained stagnant for a few seconds before it continued to ascend to my floor. I've never felt terror like this in my life. The strange part to me is that people live on floor 13. Have they had any horrifying encounters? Is there a story behind the 13th floor? I have so many questions. I really hope nothing else happens, but I have a terrible feeling something will. I live in a very rural, mountainous area of California, and at this time was working as a cook in a restaurant/bar. I was 24 and not in the best place financially at the time, so I had been borrowing my uncle's car to drive to and from work. I worked from 5 to 11 p.m. I know everyone in this area well and don't have a single enemy. I get along with everyone. One night I had gotten done closing up the kitchen and decided to have a beer before going home. The bartender was talking to a fellow community member and trying to get him to go home. He was too drunk for his own good. There were some out-of-towners that weren't too fond of the locals' demeanor, and it seemed like it was getting intense between them. I just saw it as a local that I knew, being annoyingly drunk, but perfectly harmless. I had my beer and went out and got in the car. I felt bad for not offering a ride home, but was tired from work and told myself he'll be okay. I drove away. Mind you, there's no street lamps, no buildings. It's the middle of nowhere, pitch black. I realized about a mile from the bar that I should turn around and offer him a ride home. He didn't live far and it wouldn't really be out of my way. I turn around at a muddy turnout and go back. I go in and basically I was short with him and told him that I would pick him up in the morning and he could get his truck, that I'll give him a ride home tonight. Like I said, I was 24 and a small-built female. He was a smaller-built 35-ish looking male. I knew this guy had hit on me in the past, but I assumed he was just an old weirdo who was lonely. I always shrugged off his advances. Anyway, with a couple minutes of reasoning, he finally hopped in the car and I took off, driving towards his home, about 5 miles away on winding mountain roads. I didn't notice anything really at first. He just seemed drunk, quiet, mumbly. But not too long into the drive, he starts saying thank you, how nice I am to help him out. I say the usual, of course, no problem. I couldn't let him be there knowing full well he couldn't drive. This is where I start getting creeped out. I make a turn on the road he lives on. It's a long road, not many houses. All of the driveways are long, about a mile or two, so you don't see any houses. He gets really quiet, and it's dark in the car. I can't see him really well. I notice him look at me though. I could see the reflection of his eyes from the dim lights of the radio. He was just staring at me. Without returning his gaze, I said, "What's up?" He says, "You're so pretty, and I never get this chance to be alone with you." I shrugged it off, trying to play it cool, although I started regretting my decision. All of a sudden, he reaches over to me while I'm driving and tries to put his hand on my breast. I start yelling at him, telling him to stop. I slam on my brakes in the middle of the road and scream at him to get out of this car now, and I repeat it over and over. At this point, I had my hands off the wheel, and I was trying to push him out of the car. I had leaned over and opened the door. He was not budging. He starts laughing. He says, "You and I both know that no one is around." I said, "We just left the bar. At least 5 people know where I'm going. Please stop. Here's a flashlight. Walk on home. I'm done with you tonight." He's quiet for a minute before saying, "I don't feel like walking much." The way he said it scared the living shit out of me. I started screaming, not like a deep scream, but like an ear-piercing one. I knew the scream was strong and loud, and I had even hurt my own ears, just hoping someone had their windows open somewhere off in the woods. But nothing happened. We struggled for what felt like minutes as he kept trying to come at me. This entire time he was kind of laughing. He was drunk, so that was probably my only advantage, because I wasn't. I pushed on him like I had never pushed on anything in my life, so hard that I felt my arms burning with pain. When he finally gets out of the car, I slam on the gas, not even bothering with the door. I was heading down a long-ass road in the middle of nowhere. It's a dead end after about 20 miles, but this road is like 1 lane wide, and there's hardly any turnouts. I turn around fast, afraid of the car being still for even a second. I take off driving, knowing he'll be up ahead, but I never see him. I never see him again. He was a local I'd known for years and saw frequently. I don't know if he took off to another area from embarrassment or what, but I never saw him again. I arrived home, shaking, red, scratched, and out of breath. My boyfriend and our friend were at home, and I told them immediately, and they knew who it was too. And they went to try and find him, but they didn't. Hey guys and ladies, thanks for watching. If you want me to tell your story, or read a creepypasta, email me at the address in the description. Are you sick of your weak-ass cell phone alarm that never actually wakes you up?
Yes!
Have you had it up to here with getting fired because you can't seem to make it to work on time?
Yes! Oh my gosh!
Well, say goodbye to all that bullshit. Introducing the Wake Yo Ass Up mattress from Ripco. The Wake Yo Ass Up mattress is guaranteed to wake yo ass up. Our scientists have done extensive research and have come to the conclusion that the best way to wake yo ass up is to electrocute the fuck out of you. Copper wires are woven throughout the pillow top, and it's all ready to go. So just plug it in and set the alarm. It's so easy. Trust me, you need this mattress. Don't just take it from me, though. Here's one of our satisfied customers, and not an actor.
It's the
Say it.
It's the best.
It's the best mattress you've ever had.
Yeah.
The Wake Yo Ass Up mattress can be yours for 3 easy payments of $222. Order now while supplies last. Once again, that's the Wake Yo Ass Up mattress from Ripco. Be good to animals, even people.
Scout, Snammock, Barksbus, Herish.
So I just go, yeah, I see it. The motherfucking shooting star. You're being recorded right now. I say you're being recorded. The Wake Yo Ass Up mattress is guaranteed to wake yo ass up.